Have you ever stopped to think about how a single place can tell a story that stretches across thousands of years? Well, today we're diving into one of those places. It's a house in Jerusalem that was utterly destroyed by fire, but its story was perfectly preserved by the very flames that consumed it. Okay, let's get into it.
Our story starts, maybe surprisingly, right now, in the present day. We're talking about a genuine time capsule sitting just beneath the streets of a modern, bustling city.
And this is the central paradox, the thing that makes this site so incredible. The fire was so intense that the upper stories of the house collapsed, burying the ground floor in a thick blanket of ash and rubble. It acted like a seal, you know? It protected everything underneath from the elements and basically froze a single horrific moment for almost 2,000 years.
So if you walk through the Jewish quarter of Jerusalem's Old City today, you can actually visit this site. It's a museum now, and it's built right around the excavated ruins. This isn't some replica or a reconstruction. You are literally peering down into a home exactly as it was left in the year 70 AD. It's an absolutely direct window into the past.
So, okay, we can see the ruins, but what story are they telling us? To find that out, we've got to travel back in time and meet the family who actually called this place home.
So now we're leaving the 21st century behind. We're stepping into the first century, into a city that's right on the brink of a complete and total disaster.
Try to picture it. Jerusalem is a thriving, vibrant city. It's the center of faith, of culture, of commerce. But the tension with the ruling Roman Empire, well, it's hit a boiling point. The air itself is just thick with rebellion and with fear.
And living right in the middle of all this were the Katros family. We know from the archaeology that they were well off, probably part of the priestly class. Their home was in the affluent upper quarter, and it was filled with all these signs of prosperity. We're talking beautifully carved stone tables, fine imported pottery, and they even had their own private ritual baths called mikvahs. Their life was one of real comfort and deep religious devotion.
But that entire life, it was about to be completely obliterated. The Roman legions finally arrived at the gates of Jerusalem, and the city was sealed shut. What came next was months of starvation, of bitter infighting, and just brutal warfare. And the true human cost of it all was found right here, in this house. Buried in the soot and rubble, archaeologists made a gut-wrenching discovery: the skeletal arm of a young woman. It was found on the steps, her fingers reaching upward, a desperate final attempt to escape the smoke and flames. It's the single most powerful, most humanizing piece of evidence in the entire home. You have to understand, the tragedy of the Katros family wasn't some isolated event. It was just one story, one family, caught in a massive citywide catastrophe. So to really get it, we need to zoom out a little.
The final chapter really started back in 66 AD with the Great Jewish Revolt against Roman rule. By the spring of 70 AD, the Roman general Titus, who, by the way, would later become emperor, had Jerusalem completely surrounded. After a horrific siege, the city's walls were finally broken, and on the 9th day of the month of Av, a day of mourning in the Jewish calendar, even to this day, the Romans just unleashed their fury. They burned the sacred Second Temple and put the rest of the city to the torch, house by house, including the house of Katros.
Now, the destruction of the Second Temple wasn't just about losing a building. It was the end of an entire world. It stopped the central priestly rituals of Judaism cold, it shattered the heart of the Jewish nation, and it kicked the dispersal of Jewish people across the globe into high gear, a diaspora that would define their history for the next 2,000 years. The burnt house is a perfect, tragic snapshot of that massive event.
For centuries, that whole story just lay silent. It was buried under layers and layers of subsequent history. But then, in the 20th century, it was finally brought back into the light.
Just let that sink in for a second. For almost 1,900 years, the story of the Katros family and their final, terrifying moments was completely lost to history, preserved under the very city that was built right on top of its own ruins. It's just an incredible testament to how archaeology can recover entire worlds we thought were gone forever.
So how did they find it? Well, it all happened after 1967, during the reconstruction of the Jewish quarter. Before new buildings could go up, a team led by an archaeologist named Nachman Avigad conducted what's called a rescue archaeology. They started digging, and pretty soon
they hit this thick layer of ash. Beneath it, they found the preserved ruins of this mansion. But the most amazing find of all? It was a small stone weight, inscribed in Aramaic with the words Bar Katros, which means, of the son of Katros. For the first time, these anonymous victims had a name.
So, what's the takeaway? What is the lasting legacy of this one single burnt house for us today?
The burnt house matters because it makes history real. It turns it from an abstract idea into something you can feel, something deeply personal. You know, it's one thing to read about a siege in a book. It's something else entirely to see the burnt stones and the scorched wood of a family's home. It takes this huge, epic tragedy of the temple's destruction and gives it a human face, a name, Katros, and this heartbreaking image of a woman reaching for safety on a staircase.
The historian Flavius Josephus, he actually saw the destruction with his own eyes. He wrote that the city was so devastated that anyone who had known it before couldn't even recognize it, that they couldn't hold back their tears. The ruins of the burnt house are the physical proof of his words. It's a real archaeological echo of that incredible sorrow.
And the wild thing is, the discovery of the burnt house was pretty much an accident, a fluke of modern construction. Which really makes you wonder, doesn't it, as we walk through our own cities, on our own streets, what other stories, what other entire worlds are lying just inches beneath our feet, waiting for someone to remember them?